to everyone, look, if you don't comply with the quarantine, that's a $1,000 fine to begin. Day one. If you continue not to comply with the quarantine, it is $1,000 for each additional day. I want to really make sure I'm getting this point across.
I'm asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000,
yes,
or $4,000 for a couple.
He wanted to talk about the fact that he was worried that a black girl like me was a threat to his future.
Wow. Let's let that sit for a second there. That's incredible.
What is it? What is it that's so terrifying for white people? And that's what this is about, that people of color are threatening them so deeply.
What is it? What is it that is compelling people to not think exactly like I think about everything? What is it that's making people not do everything in the way that I do it? Me, Donnie Deutsch, big metropolitan man at large in Manhattan. Why do some people have different opinions than me? How could it be? Obviously, it's something sinister. Why would they do it? It's simply got to be racism. That's got to be the number one thing that makes 47% of the people who took a Fox News poll support President Trump. 47% supported him 2 months ago, and last year, and 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. And it's always they never bother doing any more searching than it's got to be race. That's it. Never. Even when they go into towns, and they have since the beginning, they've gone into towns, these media people and these very important coastal beauties go into towns in Appalachia, in dreaded Trump white trash towns, and find people, and they say, why did you vote for Donald Trump? And the person says, well, this town has been out of business and badly hurt since all the business factories closed, and so we're hoping that Donald Trump can bring our jobs back. Well, some people might say that Trump has turned the economy around and now I'm making a little bit of money, whatever like that. And the reporter immediately deletes all of their memory and now says, you know what? I know he said it was about the economy and wanting it changed and wanting to be acknowledged and, caring about our jobs and caring about our future. The reporter says, I know that's what the guy told me, but you know what? No, I don't understand how that could be because I have a really nice job. I'm doing really well, so I can't even imagine what it'll be like. So I've decided that wash away all of the personal testimonials I've gotten from all the man on the street interviews I've done, from all the non-racist Trump people, and I've decided that I'm going to go with they're just racist. That's it. Yep, they're just racist. And even though, and we've seen these, they've been sending people out to these, depressed old factory towns to talk to the supposedly sinister, bigoted Trump voters for 4 years now, and they never seem to find any of these racists. Never. Even when the jokes, CNN had the comedian guy they sent around, and the jokes are always, I hope I get out of there alive. Let's see what happens. And everybody they talk to are really sweet. All the focus groups that they ever have, I've never once heard anybody say, you know what, the reason I like Trump is because I understand that the people who hate Trump look at him, and if they can get past that, the Queen's accent, the dumb hair, and the orange, and the gold toilets, and the gaudy, New York Playboy stuff, and if they can get past that, and most of them can't, you simply roll into that he's a conservative and a Republican, and what a Republican means, and even though Trump is a nuanced dude, he's by far not an orthodox conservative. But because somebody has a different view than you on abortion, because somebody has a different view on LGBT, the wording of LGBT documents doesn't always mean they're racist or haters or evil or they have bad intentions. People have different takes on different issues. Some of these people have very well thought out takes on different issues. If you don't like the minimum wage, like I don't like the minimum wage because I think it's going to depress employment, especially from the most marginalized communities It always does. People say, no, you don't want to do that because you're in the pocket of big corporate America and you're just for big, evil, mean business. It's always something nefarious, even though you've given them tangible, logical answers as to why you think these things are good. I don't think the minimum wage is good because it hurts businesses and it hurts employees and it hurts people who should be getting their first job somewhere, getting a little experience under their belt so that they can have bigger and better opportunities. That goes right out the window. No, yeah, it's, you know what? It's race. And now, in 2020, it's even gotten dumber. You just heard from Donnie Deutsch. He's a dumb human being. It's fine. We've always known this. He's just a weaselly operator out of New York. I know people who've met Donnie Deutsch, and it's almost unanimous. DB is usually the takeaway. So no matter what happens, they can't really find any actual racists. So now they make them up. So right after, and that was on Morning Joe that you heard Donnie Deutsch. I'll play it again just so in case you missed it.
What is it that's going on in this country now? What is it that's so terrifying for white people?
Once again, this is just working off of a Fox News poll that shows half the country likes Trump. But what is it that's so terrifying for white people?
And that's what this is about, that people of color are threatening them so deeply that they are willing to dismiss democratic tenets. And I'm just repeating what I said earlier because I have no other explanation, Joe. There's nothing else there. We could sit in a room, you could put the 10 smartest scholars in a room. That's it. I'm saying that, the quiet part out loud. There's no other explanation. And that's what we have to deal with this country right now. We are a divided country, and it's about race. I don't care what anybody else says.
Doesn't care what anybody else says. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. You should be in jail for even using that.
It's a really dumb cliche.
But among other things, first of all, Trump has increased his support amongst black and brown people, for him significantly. So is that about race? Is that about black people saying, you know what?
Well, according to them, it is, right? It's about brown people or like some black immigrants that aren't really African American deciding that they're pro-Trump, and they're actually
right.
they're actually white deep down, according to the left.
Okay, so that's what it's got to be, that they're white deep down. So so now after all these years, you've got, with the exception of COVID times, you've got historically low black unemployment.
Right.
Historically low, 50-year low, and wages have increased for blacks, which means, in minorities, which means that, more opportunities avail themselves of these folks. So the day-to-day livelihoods, existence of black Americans had improved greatly under Donald Trump. You would think that the 70 million racists, the white ones, would be saying, Jesus, we voted this guy in to make sure that blacks didn't do good, and he's making blacks do well. This is terrible. These same people also should be very uncomfortable with criminal justice reform. For some reason, this Republican, and Republicans weren't into criminal justice reform. Mm-hmm. For some reason, this Republican made it a priority to have his most trusted advisor dedicate himself for the first year of his presidency to criminal justice reform. He sent Jared Kushner to work with Van Jones and other progressive black groups to work on criminal justice reform, something that was the antithesis. Yeah, big words are going to be out of my... Something that was the antithesis mm-hmm. of, a conservative platform for decades. It's crazy. So why would Trump voters still support this guy who's gone rogue now and is into criminal justice reform? This guy takes phone calls from Beyonce. I mean, this guy hangs out with Kanye. This guy, Trump, for a racist, is... If your main goal was to elect Donald Trump so that you would have a racist in the White House, he has failed you. He has failed you, and you would not be voting for him again. Mm-hmm. No, not this time. It is absolutely, totally, and utterly absurd.
Well, right. And the actual racists, like, so Richard Spencer, CNN contributor Richard Spencer, who for a while was like their favorite Trump supporter, switched to Biden. He tweeted a picture of his ballot. This is a guy who's an actual modern day white supremacist, Richard Spencer. And he voted for Biden in 2020 because he was disappointed in Trump. He felt that Trump had let him down because all the all of the narrative that Trump was secretly signaling all this stuff to white supremacists, dog whistles and all these things, that was all a crazy fever dream by the media. He was never actually, it's like the thing with the Proud Boys, where he told the Proud Boys, they were telling him, tell the Proud Boys to stand down, tell the Proud Boys to stand down. And he tells the Proud Boys, like, stand back, stand by, because he can't find the words stand down, and everybody's like, see, he's talking directly to the Proud Boys. That it's a fantasy projected narrative that's happening in their heads that Trump is like trying to talk to these white supremacists. And so when CNN and MSNBC and all these places keep saying on TV all the time, oh, Trump loves white supremacists. Trump is a big secret white supremacist, and he's sending all these white supremacist signals, and then the white supremacists obviously are going to think it's true because CNN and MSNBC told them that it's true. And then when Trump actually was in office and did all his policies that aren't white supremacist in any way, then they were disappointed with it. And so that's why you have Richard Spencer then voting for Biden, because because he's mad that he was lied to that Trump is a white supremacist.
Right, and
he's
you may
not.
say a lot of things about Biden. He's got problems with the truth. He is a plagiarist. He's got his own few Me Too issues, but he did deliver on mass incarceration of black people.
Right, that he got done.
And he's bragged about it over the years, being part of the author of the crime bill. He's the man who gave that to. So if you are a white supremacist, a real one, then Biden is your guy. The guy gave you the goods. He also... One of his favorite insane anecdotes has to do with getting in a razor blade chain fight with a black guy at a pool.
Yeah.
So that brings us to first Donnie Deutsch goes in this really focused on uniting us show, Morning Joe. And then they go from him to Yamiche Alcindor, who's got to be thrilled because she just got stimulus money. Your tax dollars are about to be appropriated to her wallet. So, and Yamiche Alcindor follows up on with Donnie Deutsch.
I think Donnie's theory is a solid one because
Solid one. I don't know what it is. His theory is, I don't know. I can't meet Donnie Deutsch. Can't figure out why these people want to vote for Donald Trump. So all I have left is they've just got to be racists. So she looks at Donnie Deutsch, analyzes that brilliant formulation that he has, and says, you know what? That's solid. That really is a solid piece of speculation there, Donnie. Holy God.
I've been talking to so many Trump supporters over the last few years, and I have to tell you, even when I talk to them about policies, about foreign policy or about China, a lot of times the Trump supporters that I talk to, they turn the issue back to race. Now, maybe it's because...
So, that is bullshit. And I've just done a quick Google search using all of the buzzwords that you're about to hear here. And I can't... It's funny. A liberal progressive reporter. And by the way, this is a reporter from a school that teaches reporting, where reporting is supposed to be unbiased. Donnie, you're right. Yeah, they are racist. A reporter encounters racists who are speaking to her on the record, and she doesn't report it. You'd figure that would be excellent copy in the era of Trump.
You would think so. And you would think, I mean, doesn't she do some of her interviews on camera probably too?
She's a television reporter.
Don't you think they probably, if they had tape of a Trump supporter telling Yamiche that...
I just looked for it, yes.
They're being interviewed by someone who's African-American, but I can remember one of my first hints that this was going to be a running theme of the Trump administration was being in Wisconsin, talking to a man, trying to explain to him about healthcare and talking to him about why he supported the president's healthcare plan. And he kept on saying, well, people think I'm racist. People think I'm racist. And I finally said, well, sir, even though I'm talking to you about healthcare, why do people think you're racist? And he said, well, look at you. You're a black girl. How could you get a job at the New York Times? And
So I looked that up. Wisconsin, Yamiche Alcindor, racist. I couldn't find it. Maybe you can find it. You figure it would loom large in her legend if it happened.
Yeah. The one thing I can maybe think, although I still think that if there was any chance this happened, it would be on tape and it would have been everywhere at the time. The one thing that's possible is maybe he said to her, like, America's not a racist country. Look, you're black and you have a job at the New York Times, so how can America be racist? Like, it's possible he said something.
Which would still make what she's saying now a fabrication.
Right. But that's the only way, like, listening to the words she's saying and trying to think of something that somebody could say that would sound to her like that. Like,
which is you having to rearrange all the words and all the facts and all the factors that is in her fake, interaction.
So, yeah, mostly this just didn't happen. But
right.
I'm really concerned about all the African American people moving into my town at the
right out of the brochure. Right out of the brochure. I'm really concerned. By the way, I'm going to say this on national television, too, if you don't mind. Or, I'm going to say this to a national New York Times reporter, if you don't mind. I'm concerned. Yeah, you spelled my name, Smith, S-M-Y-T-H. Just make sure it's Y-T-H. Chester Smith, 84 Main Street in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm really worried. I have concerns about all the blacks moving into town. Yeah, that happened, all right.
At that time, his town was 97% white. When you fast forward, I'm thinking about another.
Which town, Yamiche? Which town was that? Just off the top of your head, real quickly.
Another person I'm talking to who was talking to me about the fact that he was really concerned about the kind of the way, the focus that the nation was going. I asked him again, well, what are you really concerned about? He started talking about Antifa, talking about African Americans taking over his town, Mexicans coming for him. He was living in a gated community in Florida, worried about African American.
Black people are taking over my town. Mexicans are coming for me. That is a great quote. That is a huge quote to have.
If
Mexicans are coming for me.
If you meet someone who lives in a gated community who says Mexicans are coming for them, then you should probably seek help for them in some form, get them evaluated psychiatrically, because I mean, I don't know anyone who says things like this.
Nobody says things like this. That's even your, who's it, Richard Spencer, like even he wouldn't speak in such stark cliche. I've noticed who's moving in. I'm a little worried about Donald Trump has promised, by the way, that there won't be any black people moving in anywhere. That was one of the things he promised us. That's why we're voting for him.
Americans and Latinos coming into his neighborhood when that community, again, was some 97 to 98% white.
What was that again? Just quickly, Yamiche, can you tell us?
There is this real elephant in the room, even when you're talking about...
So this is good, because for them there is. There's only elephant in the room. That's what it is. We're reporting on the elephant, sir. You can keep telling me that you're worried about, interest rates and refining your house and your car and your family's safety, etc. I'm going to sit here and talk to you, but I'm reporting on this elephant that we're all using here to explain you better than you can explain yourself.
A policy that Trump supporters, the ones that I've interacted with, not all of them, but a large majority of them do bring up the issue of race. They do bring...
Holy God, the firing would be so frigging loud and immediate if this person worked for me. I can't imagine if somebody went on and said and just slandered, 100 million people.
Right.
It's incredible.
Maybe not all Trump supporters, but certainly a vast majority just talk about race all the time.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I remember being in Wisconsin, in a town that was 97% white, by the way, and I usually check all the demography, the race breakdowns of every town. So then I went into this other place. This other young man I remember, as she says, giggling while crafting the story. I remember, that's right, it was in Florida. It was a gated community, and he was worried about the Hispanics were coming for him.
Now, do you think that, so I assume, people are going to press her on this. Say, where's this video of this? At least, people on the right will, I think.
But this is gold. If you can get somebody to say that the Hispanics are coming for me, then you write that. If you're reporting, you're recording that or writing it down, and you're saying, this is excellent. Just keep talking. Keep talking. You are writing my story for me. I can't wait to file. This is incredible.
Right. I mean, so if people actually hold her to this and keep saying, like, where is the evidence that any of these conversations ever happened? And she can't produce any evidence that any of these conversations ever happened. Like, if she can't tell you the town or when this happened or what was going on or point to the interview and said, I just felt bad for the person left out. If she has no answers on that, like, does she get in trouble? Does she get fired? Does anything happen?
Well, no, the person who asks her gets fired. You can't ask her that question. You cannot ask her that question because if you do, remember, at first, including me, on that little radio show I used to do, when I first said that this, who was the idiot Jussie Smollett, when I first heard that story and said, okay, they got him in Chicago, they jumped at him, he had a tuna sandwich, he had that picture of that string that's the rope. Two of them, they didn't really beat him up, but tried to, and he's not. And I said to myself, well, this is absolute fabricated. This absolutely didn't happen. And of course, it didn't happen. There was no way, of course. On his face, you knew that it was ridiculous. There was no mugging of this guy.
Well, that's just not how.
But immediately, the people I was talking to said, that is terrible for you to say, to doubt somebody, to doubt that this happened. But you have to just be a normal human being to know that it's absolute bull bleep. So I don't think there's anybody. I don't think that you're allowed to ask this. I don't know. Possibly Chaz Bono could. No, Chaz Bono couldn't. I don't know. You would have to be much more intersectional than Yamiche. It would be tough. It would have to be tough to do. But everybody there knows. No, Joe Scarborough knows that this didn't happen. He knows it didn't happen. But after a while, you're collecting a nice paycheck. And you're like, okay, fine. This is the game I'm in. I'm not.
Do you think they don't know? Because, I mean, I can tell you that, like, the Jussie Smollett thing, for example, like, people, the nice liberals that we live around in Massachusetts absolutely believed that 100% when it happened.
Right. But it's crazy.
But so they definitely, because that
like
fits their worldview. That fits the narrative that they have in their head. They already know Trump supporters are racist. So
and that narrative, Alice, is the elephant. It's the elephant in the room. Is that they're seeing, they already can describe to you who the assailants are. They know what he looks like. Right. He looks a lot like me. He's fat. He's disheveled. He's white. And, and then add to that, he's not educated, he's not, and whatever other gross, oafish qualities. It's everything that they find. He goes to Dunkin' Donuts, not Starbucks. He drives he doesn't drive a Range Rover. No, he drives some stupid pickup truck because he probably works with his hands. And they have a composite of this person. Now, there were very few of those actual people anywhere. But they've got a composite of this person. And, like, they think they know him. And so if he's not there in a story, they put him there. They add that character to that story, no matter what. And that's what this is. And so
But, like, Brian Williams eventually got in trouble for this type of fabrication, right? Like, I mean, not, like...
Well, right, but...
To end his career, but he got... Like,
but he hit too many disparate parties. So he claimed to be in a military combat situation. He claimed to be in a part of Louisiana where bodies were rolling by in the water. He claimed to too many wacky things that too many parties. I mean, it was too much of a diverse consensus that this guy was full of it.
But, like, she can only do this so much, Yamiche, right? Before, like, this comes back to bite her, because this is just making things up whole cloth, pretty much.
Well, right, but MSNBC is not going to go after her. The New York Times isn't. Do you think PBS is going to go after her? No.
But, I mean, like, I don't know. How much can she do this and just say things that never happen like they're true?
Somebody should, on Twitter, be asking her right now. I know two people who it's not going to be. And they're both in this room. Even though I think she is absolutely... I know she's lying. This is just bull crap. And it's too bad, too, because racism does exist. But, putting up these vapor representations of racism where they do not exist does a disservice to everybody who's actually the victim of racism.
Yeah.
Racist policies and this and that. It's just gross.
Up their fears of the unknown, of African Americans, of Latinos, of this kind of browning of America. That is just something that needs to be covered, that needs to be said out loud. And I keep thinking about that, man.
The browning of America needs to be said out loud. Well, why didn't you say it out loud, Yamiche? You're a reporter. You can report this stuff. There should be videos of this stuff like we've been saying everywhere.
In Wisconsin, who looked at me and said, how could you possibly have a job and make more money than me? And I said, well, sir, my parents went to college. I went to college. That's part of how I earned this job. But he didn't want to hear it. And he didn't want to talk about healthcare.
Notice the inference is, of course, that guy didn't go to college.
Yeah.
Sir, my parents went to college.
I earned a job.
Yes, exactly. That's what happens in the real civilized world, where there are Brooklyn lofts and we have expensive ice cream and we have all the cool things that you're supposed to know about, and we hang around with celebrities and watch celebrities videos telling us that we'll make it through COVID if we wear a mask, and we're impressed.
Even though that's what I wanted to talk to him about, he wanted to talk about the fact that he was worried that a black girl like me was a threat to his future.
Wow. Let's let that sit for a second there. That's incredible.
Excellent follow-up, Mika. You know what? You know what you would think too. Mika is not a real. She's a spokesperson really for a show. She's not a real reporter, and neither is Joe. But you know what? You would think somebody somewhere would say, Yamiche, we'd be interested in following up with some of these people who said that to a reporter who's a prize-winning, award-winning reporter. Mm-hmm. That would be something wonderful to document. Not only that, but the fact that this reporter had to be victimized like this, it would be fascinating to know a little bit more about that.
Right.
But that's absolute horse bleep. It did not happen. I got to find out where I swore again, Alice. Holy heck. So I don't know. I just think that this is, I do know. I think that this is gross. And among other things, certainly it's damaging. Certainly, it just builds this lie that racism and racial, this danger, perniciousness is around every corner. Mm-hmm. And you build up, and that's why we have this stupid year where all the statues are now coming down because of, essentially fantasy tales about an alternate reality where this stuff is happening. Scott, well, yeah. But also, if I was a progressive, I'd just be sick of being so unoriginal. Wouldn't you be sick of it eventually? Like, why just, it's so intellectually lazy too. Oh yeah, it's racism. Donnie Deutsch, I don't even know how to say it. You know what? It pains me to say it because I'm a white person too. You know what? It's racism. There, I said the quiet part out loud so you know it's true. So there you go. It's racism, really racism. Maybe, why don't we, imagine if, and this would be my rule. If I was king, for this next year, no media person, analyst, pundit, thoughtful newsmaker is allowed to use the word racism, and you have to use something else to describe what's happening, because it's such a lazy, easy word. Mm-hmm. It can do everything. It's the magic word. Why did he do it? It's just racism. Oh, okay, it was racism.
Well, and the fact that now, racism doesn't have to mean, people discriminating against people or even, people not wanting people in their neighborhood or something like that. Racism can just be this sort of ethereal force that's out in the world. It's structural racism. It's in the systems. It's statues have it, and words have it, and just sort of it's in the air, and it affects people just by being in the air. That's a metaphysical religious belief, not which that can be a religion. That's fine. I think for a lot of progressives it is.
Oh, totally.
But the idea that that's a real external force that's out there that's affecting things, that's as much a belief as people who believe in demons and angels and stuff affecting things on earth. That's fine. You can have that as your belief. But the problem is they don't think that's a belief. They think that's just unequivocal, objective reality. So, everybody else's beliefs are just beliefs, but their beliefs are special. They're science because they've put some people that they call social scientists who have now like done studies to prove that there's this metaphysical force out there.
Right, and I agree with that totally. But in this case, it's a young guy in Florida in a gated community who said he's afraid of the Latinos coming for him and black people. I mean, she's not talking about systemic.
Well, right,
I'm sure she believes that. She's got a lot to say about that too. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
There's no doubt she believes in food apartheid. I'm getting.
But they're having to produce these imaginary people who say things like this because their belief system demands that the metaphysical forces of racism make people behave this way. So they believe there are these demonic forces of racism and misogyny and stuff out there, right? And that's like making people do racist things.
So
right?
It's like the religious vision.
Right. But if they can't find any people who act like that, then that like harms their work. That undercuts their whole belief system about racism and how it's impacting people. And so if they can't find any real world effects that are happening from these racism forces, then they have to like make up people because then otherwise it looks like their whole thing is pretend. Which it is. So that's why they have to make up, real world physical things that happen as a result of their pretend belief system.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So, moving on here. Last night, Donald Trump gave a talk, which I thought, it's interesting. Conservatives hate what he said. I listened to the guys at the Commentary Magazine. They are rip bleep. But, the Congress, the House, and the Senate came to an agreement.
Well, you're going to be mad if it kills the bill, right?
Yes, I think so. But the House and the Senate came to an agreement on the COVID relief bill. Mm-hmm. And though Trump had representation at most of the negotiations, he was not he wasn't there himself. He's counting votes. And so he hasn't really been a vocal part of this thing. Mm-hmm. He had leverage over Nancy Pelosi about a month ago. He could have used it. Right. And he hasn't, not vocally. That has not been his priority. It's been very obvious it hasn't been. Well, now, since the language of the bill has come out, and now we've seen all the pork items, which are absolutely insulting, suddenly Trump is into this stuff. And yesterday, out of nowhere, he came out and gave a talk, which I think was pre-recorded, but he a 4-minute conversation about this, and I think this was his best 4 minutes in speaking ever. Maybe the highly produced State of the Union stuff was good, but this was his most on tone, right tone, exactly speaking to the tone of the whole meaning of Trump that he's been since he's been president.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda and influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity, it's called the COVID relief bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion.
I thought, isn't Burma Myanmar now, or is that not? What's Myanmar?
Yeah, I thought so. Maybe it's switched back. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't keep up with that stuff.
Dollars for Egypt.
1570, huh?
Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama.
One of the things that I'll miss about him, there's not an affectation in his pronunciation of any of those countries. There's no Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador. He doesn't. That is so quintessential Trump. He has no time for that horse bleep. You know, with Obama, man, you would have felt like you were taking Spanish lessons by the time he was done talking to you about these.
$40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million.
That part I agree with, actually. I do want the reef fish management people to get theirs finally.
Dollars to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico. A provision to promote.
How red meat is this?
Oh, yeah.
It's so right on.
I mean, where was this guy, though, in October?
Right.
I mean, then he wouldn't have had to waste all this time tweeting about Dominion voting machines because he would have been just cruising for another term.
Yeah, this is right on. This is so populist. This is anti-swamp.
Right.
This is...
It's going to... So I think that he's right on in tone and message. I think that it's going to undermine the tone and message if he ends up just killing the bill entirely by doing this.
Right.
The breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for...
Anyway, you get it. It goes on and on like that. So a couple of things. One, this is part of an omnibus package that was kind of paired along with
the
COVID relief stuff.
Right. They stuck them together. So technically that's not part of the COVID relief.
But it's still, this is not a clean COVID adventure.
Right. Right.
And in this period, at this time, that's what we deserve. If Democrats and Republicans take this seriously at all and have any kind of sympathy for Americans who are absolutely hurting, then they would have a separate, clean COVID relief bill. Of course, they don't speak that language. They speak D.C., Beltway language, and it's all horse trading. It's all deals, and it's about getting leverage, and it's all transactional because they're not hurting from any of this stuff. They could give a damn. By and large, they could give a damn. And so the tone of this, you're right, is right on. The tone is right on. The placement of this is terrible. I mean, what's he going to do now? And also, you've got Perdue and Loeffler running on the bill.
Right.
And he's now blowing it up in Georgia.
Right.
And so now if they lose, then if we think this pork is bad, we are in for a pork tsunami. Not just one, many pork tsunamis coming along from Joe Biden for the next 2 years. So that's why this is, although it's his finest oratory moment, symbolically, it is in a tangible sense a big pain in the ass.
Well, and it can actually stop the bill. I don't know how much you've followed this, but
he can pocket veto it right up until the new Congress. And there's a new Congress and they'd have to restart.
Right. So basically, the problem is that normally, like legislation, the president they can override a veto. So if he vetoed it, then they could override it. But the president has 10 days to sign, and then it just passes if he doesn't do anything. 10 days, not including Sundays. So they would have had to get him the bill to his desk today to have it time out like that and become law before the end of the session. So now they have to end their session on January 3, and he's still going to be able to be holding on to the bill. So he can veto it essentially for all intents and purposes, even though, you know, Congress could override his veto normally. So, you know, he can actually kill this now. And it's going to be a sad thing if, I mean, I 100% agree with everything he said, but now you've got Democrats calling to go up to $2,000. Of course, they haven't offered to remove any of the things he mentioned in there that ought to be removed.
Right.
They're not putting anything on the chopping block. No, sir. That's not going to happen. But they're saying they want the $2,000 checks, and you know, if they're not able to reach an agreement now with the Republicans and send something to Trump, and Trump doesn't do anything, like if Trump gives this great populist speech about how Americans deserve more money and everybody's going, yay, and then Trump kills the money that is on the table for those people, that's a bad look. And I think that would be a really sour note to go out on for him, especially after saying he was calling for more money for people.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if he can... At this point, people need money. People need money. More people are going to lose their jobs in January. Nobody's getting fired right now because it's right before Christmas. But right after that, in January, there will be firings happening. Although I think me and Michael Graham got fired just before Christmas, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
It's fairly close. Anyway, so that's where we are with the Trump stuff. Once again, a mixed bag. I thought it was great to hear. Great populist tone. I wish he had done it more. But I want to switch up here a little bit and talk about, are you traveling tomorrow? Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, or today for you is Christmas Eve. And, of course, a lot of people are going to be eschewing the advice of their Democratic or New England governors, and will be getting out and traveling and flying here and there. And even though... de Blasio has made it very clear that there will be penalties if you go askant of the rules.
To everyone, look, if you don't comply with the quarantine, that's a $1,000 fine to begin, day one. If you continue not to comply with the quarantine, it is $1,000 for each additional day. I want to really make sure I'm getting this point across. We don't want to penalize people.
No.
Everyone's been through hell this year. We don't want to, but...
This is the guy who celebrated in the streets with these people, with the people of New York, when Joe Biden won the election. He celebrated in the streets. Now, if you break the rules, that was breaking the rules then. Now, if you break the rules, it's $1,000. He celebrated in the streets with the rioters and protesters in the summer as well. Now, if you break the rules, it's $1,000.
If you don't follow quarantine, you're endangering everyone else in the city right as we're fighting the second wave. So let's do it again. If you come in, you fill out the form, you follow the quarantine, God bless.
God bless. He'll bless you if you do it right. If you don't do it right, well, then you're, condemned by God, I guess.
If you violate quarantine, $1,000 for the first day. If you violate any day thereafter, $1,000 for each additional day. And we will collect those penalties. We are really serious about the fact that if you violate quarantine, you're creating a danger for everyone else.
We will collect those penalties. Incredibly, if you get fined by that, I mean, there needs to be so many class action lawsuits against these municipalities. But, if the Democrats win the Senate, all the crap that he pulled and all the money that he's spent and all the money that these states have all the debt they have, accrued through bad pension deals and COVID responses over decades, the pension deals, that's all going to be paid by your tax dollars, because they will be, the federal government will be making these states whole if there's a President Biden. So, de Blasio, I don't want to kill you with de Blasio stuff because the guy's a moron, and it just feeds my anger to hear him. But Jesus Christ, the tone with these people.
So let's talk about the holidays.
You didn't used to be involved in my holidays, Mr. Mayor. You didn't used to be a part of my Christmas planning.
And what you have to do.
What you have to do. Can you imagine that SOB telling you? So let's talk about the holidays and what you have to do. Wait a second. Did I join the Citadel here of VMI as a, first year rat or whatever it is here, where you get to tell me what I have to do? It doesn't work like that.
First of all, I'm going to say it again. I know our health commissioner will say it 1,000 times as well. If you don't have to travel, do not travel. Just cancel your travel plans. Stay local, stay safe. If you're doing any kind of gathering, keep it very small. Keep it very safe. Practice.
They freaking love to say this stuff. And even Cuomo, the enjoyment he gets, the satisfaction he gets by hearing his own voice, Cuomo, and the meter with which he talks and speaks, and the way he gets off on the vibration of his own droning, the way his voice works, and it's so condescending. It just drips with this insulting, patronizing tone.
The issue of the new strain is very serious, and I don't believe this country is taking it as seriously as it should, and more importantly, I don't think this country is taking the action that it should take, okay? So let's just talk facts first. Fact, it is in the UK and it is more dangerous. Boris Johnson says it's 70%.
This professor sucks, is what I feel when I hear that. And I'm not ready for the new strain, by the way, and the new poster that he's going to sell in his new book tour. And I'm not ready for the end of that. But do you know anything about the new strain, Alice?
Basically, and we're hearing that there's yet another new strain too in South Africa too. So this is fine. I mean, it's not great. They could, potentially be more contagious than the existing strain. I mean, we don't really know that much about them yet, but what we do know is that it probably most likely the vaccine will still work on this. The things we know about the current iteration of COVID are probably going to be true of this too. The same treatments will work. The same vaccine will work. It's not like an outbreak movie kind of deal where it's like, oh no, the new strain, now the vaccine isn't going to work or whatever. Like, it's most likely everything's going to still apply to this one the same. It's not, and if you've had one, then you are still just as protected probably from getting this one as the last one and stuff.
Well, you're going to disappoint Cuomo and de Blasio.
Well, I mean, it could, spread more rapid, be more contagious than the existing one because it could pose some threat, but it's not
I'm not doing it. I'm not opting into the new strain.
I'm not going to panic yet about it.
It's over.
Fauci told me I don't have to panic about it yet.
I'm going to demand that people wear a different kind of helmet for this new one. And I'm going to be counting helmets, and I'll be on Facebook, saying it's very disappointing that there are kids playing basketball without their helmets on. So some people will travel anyway, Alice. Mm-hmm. They will eschew the advice of these elected leaders, and they will travel anyway. And so I stumbled onto this week this thing by The Onion. It's a funny... It's a video that The Onion did. The audio works. It's about the worst airport in the world, and it's just a little parody piece. But I very much liked it. To me, it's new. It's actually from 2009, which unbelievable is somehow 11 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But I want to play this and sit back. Little levity, Alice. Levity means laughy stuff, and gravity means
heavy stuff.
Okay. Here we go.
Business Week magazine released its annual Air Travelers Report this week with Prague's Franz Kafka International Airport ranking last in customer satisfaction due to long flight delays, poor service, and an overall oppressive, impersonal atmosphere. The report found the average delay at Franz Kafka International is 31 hours longer than the next worst airport. We spoke to several American travelers who reported spending weeks and in some cases months waiting for flights.
I asked the ticket person what gate my flight was at, and they said that the airline I was flying didn't exist, and everyone keeps calling me S.
The airport was also cited as difficult to navigate, with a list of complaints including curbside shuttle services, which loop around the airport before depositing passengers back at their starting point, and extremely long corridors leading to dead ends.
Gate B to that airport
is next to gate B11, and gate B14 is in the F terminal.
Business Week also rated Franz Kafka International among the worst airports in terms of customer service, calling the employees, quote, completely indifferent to travelers' needs.
If there is a problem, fill out complaint form and place it in an envelope addressed to the name of the hospital in which you were born.
In response to the ranking, the airport added a public address system in an attempt to clear up any confusion.
Departures arriving early and arrivals landing late may be cancelled or delayed without a prior notice.
The airport also created a toll-free customer service helpline. But when our reporters called the number this week, they found it connected them to a hat store in Stuttgart. Travelers also report being frustrated by the airport's unusual security procedure, which includes a time-consuming personal interview.
The security guard asked me for like 80 minutes, are you who you say you are? Are you who you say you are? And finally, he writes liar in the back of my hand and lets me pass.
Airport officials say the complaints are unfounded.
All problems are traveler's zone. If you only made certain to properly follow proper protocols, no such problems would exist. Properly follow proper protocols.
The nearby Dostoevsky Hotel also received low marks from the passengers, a large number of whom checked in due to a flight delay and ended up murdering another guest at the hotel. Coming up, a new medical report.
So there you go. That is from The Onion. A couple of things, little pieces of housekeeping. One, Toast Cat, who is our friend and Twitter friend as well. Thank you for your kind holiday care package of the hot chocolate stuff and candy canes. And woe betide you for the ribbon candy, obviously, which is a scourge of the culinary history of the world, obviously. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Good news. I talked to the Jerry Callahan today about little Jerry Callahan licensing. Mm-hmm. And he said, go ahead. We can use little Jerry Callahan for our T-shirts. And we need to get that T-shirt together. I think we should be selling these. But people are going to want to show that they have them coming for Christmas. We got to get that online for tomorrow. Don't you think?
We can try. We'll see.
We can do it, Alice. We can do it. And when I say we, I mean you. And let's see, what else is going on? We will do a show on what I call Christmas Eve for us tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I think we should do a Christmas show, Christmas Day.
Wow, ambitious.
You don't think so?
Don't bite off more than you can chew.
No, we should do a... You know what? There's some people who's, including probably us, who you know, want stuff to listen to for
Aunt
Christmas
Jane
Day.
Isn't coming until the day after Christmas.
Oh, she'll be back? Oh, there you go.
So, I don't know if you should promise a Christmas show if you're going to want to do a show with one of our most popular guests of all time on Saturday.
And is she bringing her foul-mouthed friend?
I don't think.
We'll try to get her to bring her friend.
Okay, we'll try.
That is great. They were really fun. Thank you very much, everybody. If you're going to be traveling for Christmas and busy and doing stuff and living your life, etc., have a Merry Christmas. Hope it is very fun and you get to relax and rejoice and all that good stuff. And thank you so much for listening. And we'll have the store up very shortly. If you want some merch, and we've had requests to not have stuff made in China. So we'll try to get stuff that's not made in China. We may have a production deal with some folks in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. We'll see, Alice.
Right.
Maybe not. We'll see. But we'll try to get some stuff from countries that don't oppress our citizens.
Yeah, well, I know. So the one that we've done that I've been working on setting up, I'm not exactly sure, and I will request information from the company on which countries each item comes from.
Really?
But I'll request.
Can't we just lie to the listeners?
I'll request it. But what I can tell our listeners is that all the items, the company that does all the printing and, they buy, I'm not sure where they buy all the items from because some of them I know are imported, but I'm not exactly sure from where. So, but they do all the...
At least one party in the transaction will be a non-slave holding entity.
The company that does all the printing services and sets up the store and all that stuff, they're
ostensibly clean.
Their printing facilities are all in the United States. So they do employ Americans in the process of creating these items.
God, shameless, Alice. You do it in a sweet way, though.
This has been the Burn Barrel Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod, Facebook.com/Burn Barrel Podcast. You can check us out on the Parler app at Burn Barrel Podcast. Send us an email. Let us know what type of merchandise you'd like us to have on our new web store that we're coming out with. That is burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel. That scared me.
Cool, right?